this has become a horrific, grievous bodily harm, potentially attempted murder investigation that now moves into the political world. People will be asking why this individual wasn't removed. They'll be asking how genuine his claim is that he was a Christian after having two failed claims. They'll be looking at the sexual offence. And we know from Wayne Couzens that we need to be very, very mindful of any sexual offence, and often some of these offences, like exposure, are gateway offences to more serious offending.
Police from 3 separate police forces working together, searching now for the suspect in the corrosive alkali attack that took place on Wednesday night in Clapham in South London. We know a mother and daughter were hurt by a corrosive substance. We don't actually know what that substance was yet. And we learnt yesterday they could have suffered life-changing injuries. Now, the suspect, Abdul Azidi, was convicted of sexual assault or exposure in 2018. And there's lots of questions about him. He was granted asylum in 2022, I believe, having previously been denied asylum claims twice. Police believe that he was known to the family who were hurt, but they're not yet clear on the exact relationship. So lots of things to sort of unpick here. Dal Babu, former Chief Superintendent at the Metropolitan Police, is with us now. Dal, thank you so much for your time. We know three forces are working together. What is underway as we speak to try and find the suspect?
Well, this is a massive story, Rosie. So there's a huge amount of attention locally, nationally, and indeed internationally. So the releasing of the image of Azidi is unusual, because normally police will be reluctant to release any images because they have to do disclosures. They have to give every information that they've used and utilised. And we've seen from the post office scandal, when you fail to do that, it has a massive impact on cases. And as you said, 3 forces are working together. So BTP, the Met, and Northumberland Police will have probably a joint intelligence cell, and that intelligence cell will then decide where resources are deployed. And because he was last seen in Caledonian Road, so very, very close to King's Cross, he may have tried to sneak onto some kind of train or transport, or he may still be in London. We know he's from the Afghanistani community, as you've already said in your introduction. He's an asylum seeker, and so the police will be looking at chises within the Afghanistani community to see if they're able to get information, speak to community members. And actually not that far away, 8-9 miles away, in a place like Harrow, there's a massive Afghanistani community. So there'll be lots of lines of inquiry and a lot of interest. And the police will be updating they'll be essentially updating the press, but also there'll be ministerial and political interest in the story as well.
He now looks very distinctive because of this injury. We don't know how he got that, but you would assume that it happened within the attack on his face. And that the police have issued out this photograph. To what extent now do the public actually play potentially a crucial role in identifying where he is?
Well, the public play a massive role in this. So we don't know, quite frankly, to be brutally honest, we don't know if he's alive or whether he's disguised, but the public will be out looking for him. There's massive interest. And this is, I think, the importance of the press, where the police have a good relationship with the press, disclose the information they can that doesn't jeopardise any future criminal case. Remember, the police have to disclose absolutely everything. So this will be really working with the public, working with the press, giving information. There will be, and I'm sure be aware that journalists like yourself will be given briefings that aren't given to the general public. So it's about building up that trust and making sure that they get information out. They keep this matter in the public mind, and they continue to try and identify this man. The way he's done this attack is pretty horrific. He's a suspect at this stage, but the way the attack has been done, and the way the alkaline corrosive substance has been thrown around, he's injured himself, but it does give a case that this is somebody who acts very recklessly.
We don't yet know anything, of course, about the motive behind this, but police were making or stressing yesterday that they don't believe he's a further risk to the public, because what they know is there's some kind of relationship between the suspect and the victims, which suggests that this was a targeted attack.
Yes, it appears to be very, very targeted. So the police will be keen to try and ensure that public are not alarmed. But clearly they want to try and get the balance right of trying to identify this individual and catch him. But also they want to ensure that the police aren't further alarmed. I mean, unfortunately, women are frequently victims of these kinds of assaults, these horrific corrosive substance assaults when relationships are ended. We don't know if this was a relationship. We don't know what the issues were. But I mean, it's pretty horrific for the woman and the children who've been affected. And those people that tried to help were also affected by this corrosive substance. But we can also see from the injuries that he's sustained that this is a fairly horrific corrosive substance that is used, which causes huge amount of damage. And I think people talk about acid attacks, but sometimes the alkaline-based attacks are sometimes worse than the acid attacks. But whatever it is, acid or alkaline, it's a corrosive substance which has caused huge amount of damage to the life-changing damages to the children and the mother.
Yeah. How concerned are you about that methodology? And we don't want to kind of talk about exactly what it is, but acid attacks rose by 45% in a year in London. There are often sort of trends, aren't they, with types of attacks or weapons that get used. This is, going to cause much concern.
Yeah, and the danger is that we have some kind of copycat types of attacks. I mean, I only dealt with 1 in 30 years of policing. There was an increase if you go back 4 or 5 years. And then the numbers have been going down, and then they've recently increased. So it is, still 0.01% of all violent attacks. It's a very, very rare method that's being used, but nevertheless, when it's used, it's horrific on the victims.
There will be quite a lot of anger this morning, and we were talking earlier about half an hour ago in the papers that stories like this can get deeply political quite quickly. What we have learned is that this suspect was convicted of sexual assault and exposure and given a suspended sentence back in 2018. To what extent does that implicate what's happening now? Any concerns that might have been raised about this individual? Does that tell us anything more about his conduct, but also maybe deeper suspicion that should have been placed upon him?
Yeah, I mean, it's inevitable that's going to happen, Rosie. I think this has become a horrific, grievous bodily harm, potentially attempted murder investigation that now moves into the political world. People will be asking why this individual wasn't removed. They'll be asking how genuine his claim is that he was a Christian after having 2 failed claims. They'll be looking at the sexual offence. And we know from Wayne Couzens that we need to be very, very mindful of any sexual offence, and often some of these offences, like exposure, are gateway offences to more serious offending. So all of these things will be taken into account, and I think there'll be questions asked about the decision making by the tribunal to grant him asylum.
Dal, thank you so much for your time. Dal Babu, former Chief Superintendent in the Metropolitan Police, on the search underway for the suspect. 3 police forces currently working together to try to find Abdul Azidi.